is part 2 of the throat chakra balancing series. So in part 1, I spoke to you guys about honesty, denial, and expression, communication. And in this video, I'm going to speak to you guys about gossiping, listening, and authenticity. Okay, so these are things that we need to be aware of if we want to keep our throat chakra open, we want to keep it balanced, we want to keep the energies of the throat chakra being expressed in an harmonious, healthy way. Yeah. Okay, so authenticity, let's look at this first. So authenticity, okay, is about you being able to be yourself, okay, to be able to express yourself truthfully. Expression of truth is a quality of the throat chakra, okay. Now, a lot of us struggle to be our authentic selves, and it's because there are underlying fears, okay, and a lot of them, they stem from childhood, okay, where we didn't feel accepted, we were told that something was wrong, you know, we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that, and then we grow up feeling like as though we have to fit in with other people, okay, and it becomes really difficult to be truthfully be ourselves. So you want to examine what fears there are, okay. Are you afraid that if you are your authentic self that you will be rejected? Are you afraid of receiving criticism from others? Are you afraid of other people's opinions and judgments about you? Okay. Are you afraid that other people are not going to accept you if you are yourself? You want to look at these fears, okay, and understand that a lot of the times these fears are things that, you know, have come from things that we have been told, okay, about ourselves when we have been growing up. You know, a lot of it is conditioning that we have taken on, okay, that we need to let go of. When you are not being your authentic self, you are denying parts of yourself, okay, you are really compromising who you are. You end up doing things you don't really want to do, okay? And sometimes we struggle to be authentic because we don't really know ourselves. We don't know who we are, okay? So if that is the case, then you need to spend some time getting to know who you actually are. What is it that you actually like? What is it that you dislike, okay? Are you doing things like taking on other people's interests just because you want to fit in with the group, okay? Because you're too afraid that otherwise you're going to be the odd one out, okay? You know, are you somebody who it feels pressured by other people? And you know, look at if there's anything that you are doing in your life that you know, like an interest perhaps that you had but you're no longer interested in it, but you're continuing to do it regardless, okay? This is like almost like a form of self-betrayal, to continue to do something you don't really want to do but you're just afraid of what other people will think, you know, and so in order to fit in you just continue to do this thing, okay? That's not you being your authentic self. And if you're not sure about whether you're being your authentic self or not, there's a couple of things you could look at. Are you good at being vulnerable? And do you feel like you are hiding, okay? If you feel like as though you are not good at being vulnerable, and first of all, what do I mean by that? Because by vulnerability, I don't mean here like I'm not saying that you should be vulnerable to the degree where you let people take advantage of you or you let people abuse you. I mean that, you know, are you able to express healthy vulnerability? Okay, there is a healthy vulnerability when you are able to be your authentic self. Okay, when you are, for example, comfortable with apologizing, when you know that, okay, something you did wasn't great and you're happy to take responsibility for it and you've got no problem apologizing. That is a healthy expression of vulnerability. You want to look at whether you are comfortable revealing yourself. Some people can be very guarded. Yeah, some people are like, they can't let people in, so they really struggle with things like intimacy and connection. So look at if you're one of those people who is extremely guarded. You know, do you put walls up around you where your boundaries are so thick? And are you able to show yourself comfortably to others who you are? Okay, and look at if you're hiding. So if you feel like you're constantly having to hide from others, then that means, yeah, you're struggling with vulnerability and you're therefore struggling with authenticity. Yeah, if you have to hide yourself. You can sometimes pick this up in conversations. Okay, sometimes it's like you could be having a conversation with someone and what's being discussed could actually be some kind of deep life situation, but what you will do is you will keep emotions out of the conversation. So the conversation will be completely focused on all the practical details but void of emotion. Yeah, so are you struggling basically to bring yourself fully into that conversation? Because, you know, if you are, that means you're not allowing the other person to truly see you. Okay, and if you find that that's something you do a lot, then it could be that you are struggling with authenticity. So to be able to be authentic requires self-acceptance and it requires the courage to be vulnerable. Okay, and when you start to practice these things, you realize that there isn't this need to want to belong to others or to belong to a group, yeah, and to feel like as though you have to be so accepted by other people. You realize that true belonging is actually an internal belonging. Okay, that is true belonging, is when you get to know yourself at a very deep level of who you are, and then you are able to express that part of yourself, okay, truthfully. So people who are serious about developing themselves spiritually, they'll come to realize that sometimes the things that also who we think we are aren't really who we are at all, that these are just programs, belief systems, conditioning that we've picked up along the way, and that in order to get in touch with our true selves means to shed a lot of that. It means to shed the personality, and then true expression is the expression of the spiritual aspect of who you are. Yeah, so that is perhaps a bit further along when it comes to the development of the throat chakra, because the deepest spiritual aspect of the throat chakra is the expression of the divine will, and so that actually requires a lot of surrendering. Okay, let's talk about gossiping. So when I was looking into gossiping, the Bible's interpretation was very interesting. So I want to share that with you. So the Bible interpreted gossip as being the opposite to gospel. Gospel is the bringing of good news, and therefore gossiping is the spreading of bad news. And it said that it's basically the telling of a story of someone else's sin or shame. And it also likened the words of gossip to delicious morsels, saying that it's like having a tasty snack because it's done for your own personal enjoyment and entertainment. Now, why do we do this? Why do we gossip? One of the things that came up when I was thinking about this was pride. You know, like, how does it make us feel when we are gossiping about someone? And it gives us a sense of pride, a feeling of superiority over others. So what we're really doing here is, if you think about it, it's not so much that we are obsessed with other people's lives. There's really a self-obsession going on here, because we're comparing our own lives to other people's lives, and it can make us feel better, you know, to discuss other people's misfortune. We also want to be careful that when we are gossiping, whatever the story is that we're talking about, is it even truthful? Because sometimes these are complete rumors that we're spreading, yeah, or half truths. And in that situation, we're not just gossiping, but we're also being slanderous. So these are not healthy ways to express the energies of the throat chakra. Yeah, so if we are doing that we really want to be honest with ourselves about why we're doing it, and we really want to look at our motivations for why we feel the need to speak about someone who isn't physically present. Yeah. So also, I want to mention that the heart chakra is below the throat chakra. So whatever is going on in the heart is going to be reflected in the throat, yeah? So if there is no love in the heart, if there is no compassion, no empathy, if these qualities haven't been properly developed in the heart, then the way these energies show themselves, express themselves through the throat, is not going to be in a healthy way, yeah? So your speech is affected by whatever's going on in the heart, okay? You won't use loving words, okay? You won't speak compassionately about others, okay? So we need to focus on the heart, on the we need to focus on balancing our heart chakras in order to help the throat chakra as well, because these chakras are all working together, okay? They're all connected. So if this is something you recognize in yourself, gossiping, what you want to do is just start looking at your motivations, okay? Whenever there is a temptation to speak about someone who isn't physically present in the room at the time, you want to honestly ask yourself, why do you want to speak about this person? Okay. If there's a story you want to tell, is it up to you to tell this story? Is the story even true? Okay. What is the purpose of you telling this story to someone? Right, moving on to listening. Okay, so listening. So do any of you know someone who just talks and talks and talks a lot, and they just never listen, and they just talk over you, you know? I know some people like that. And okay, so if if we talk excessively, then it can make us really bad at listening. Yeah. Osho, in his book Living Dangerously, said that excessive talking is violence of the mouth. And I thought that was a really interesting description to give, because when you think of violence, often you just think of like somebody harming someone, you know, like some kind of physical harm or abuse. You think of that. But he actually said it, you know, it's you're using your mouth violently. Okay. So let's look at what excessive talking can actually lead to. Okay, well, excessive talking can lead to gossiping, right? It can lead to saying hurtful things about other people. A lot of the times, we are talking about things that we don't even need to necessarily be talking about. A lot of the times, words are not being used in a meaningful way. We end up saying things that aren't even relevant to the conversation. If we're having an argument with somebody, we automatically go into our defense mechanism. Okay, we want to be right, we become really concerned with being right. Yeah, we'll end up saying things that aren't really true, you know, simply because we're just trying to defend ourselves. Yeah, so excessive talking can lead to all these other things. Okay, it can lead to telling lies, exaggerating things. And also, excessive talking can be a distraction. So the other thing that it does is it disconnects us from our feelings. Okay, if someone talks excessively, it can sometimes be a way to avoid feeling something deeper within themselves that could be really uncomfortable. It can be a way of avoiding emotional stuff. Yeah, it can act as like this distraction. So, which reminds me actually of like when we say, when we talk about there being an awkward silence. Okay, the silence isn't awkward. We make it awkward because we're feeling awkward about there being a pause. You know, we always feel like we need to jump in and we want to fill that silence. We want to fill it with noise. Yeah, and also boredom. Yeah, we want to avoid feeling bored. And isn't boredom really just an inability to really truly be with oneself in the present moment? So excessive talking can take us out of the present moment. It can take us out of our bodies. So it can be really ungrounding as well. Yeah. So I think we need to really get comfortable with stillness and presence. Okay. And so what we can do is, if we want to be good at listening, is we've got to slow down, and we need to basically talk less. We just have to get into a habit of talking less. Yeah, so that we are listening more. And this can also help you with responding better to people. Yeah, responding better to situations, especially when there is some kind of you know, an emotionally charged situation or some kind of a conflict going on. You'll find that instead of reacting and instead of becoming defensive, you will start to really consciously respond. You will choose your words more carefully, and what you end up saying will be more worthwhile, you know, and perhaps more relevant and more appropriate to what is going on. So basically, the thing to practice here would be that when you find yourself in a conversation with somebody, you want and you feel that urge, you feel that temptation to just want to jump in and say what you want to say, you've got to try and resist that urge. So you have to really pull back your mind Okay, you've got to pull back on all the thoughts that are going on in your mind, and basically don't be so preoccupied. Don't be so preoccupied with your own thoughts, and just listen. And what you will find is that when you really start listening attentively, that you'll notice more. Okay, you will notice not just the words that are being spoken, but you'll notice perhaps more about the person that is speaking to you. Okay, you may gain access to more information, to things that are not perhaps being said verbally. So I think that covers everything that I wanted to say. Yeah, so if you've got any questions about this, please don't be afraid to get in touch. You can leave a comment, and so I hope you found this video helpful, and and thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in